Alright, I just got back from PAX. This is the first time I've ever gone, and it was pretty sick. Met some new people, talked to folks making some fun indies. These people are so damn passionate about what they're making, and I wanted to show off some of the stuff that I played. So here's all the cool stuff I played at PAX in no particular order. And we're gonna get through this a little bit fast because I don't have a ton of time to record this because I am running from the police. Can't tell you why though. It's murder. Antonblast is this wackadoodle little platformer that follows in the footsteps of Pizza Tower in its Wario Land inspiration. It's got this sort of grungy, kind of ugly yet weirdly endearing art style, and I thought it felt really solid to play. You just kind of explored levels and destroyed everything in your path while you were at it. It has this nice little twist where you can jump into the background of a scene, which has its own platforming challenges, and that can help you circumvent blocked areas in the foreground. It's pretty cool. And it also does the same thing Pizza Tower does with the timed escape sequence once you reach the end of a level. I will say I found the visuals a little too noisy sometimes. There's a lot going on screen, and I actually think the game would benefit from just zooming the camera out a little bit more. And plus it was really easy to lose where exactly you were in a level. It branches out so often and all the branches seem to go down long paths, so I definitely didn't get to see the full level when I played. It kind of reminds me of like old 2D Sonic where you're just going so fast down different routes that you just sort of have to accept where you are and that you won't see everything during this go round. Some people will definitely like that. Me personally, I've never been a fan. I like knowing where I am and I hate leaving areas unexplored, but I also wonder how much of that came down to the game's design versus me not trying to take too much time at the booth so other people could play. It comes out later this year. You guys know I love Pizza Tower, so I'm pretty stoked for this. Hell of an Office is a speedrunning 3D platformer that asks you to use a limited number of tools to get through a hellish obstacle course as quickly as possible. During this demo, the only things that you could really do were rocket jump and dash, but if you strung them together fast enough and with a little bit of forward thinking, you could gain a lot of speed and it felt pretty great. This game's definitely a lot simpler than something like Neon White and doesn't require the same level of dexterity, so it's probably a lot more controller friendly, and if the sheer level of difficulty of Neon White's faster time seems daunting to you, this is probably a much more welcoming entry point to this type of game. That said, on the flip side, having played Neon White, I don't know if this will be quite as fun to master. It's definitely a lot more stripped down and the skill ceiling isn't that high. In fact, I actually got some platinum level scores just casually playing on the show floor, so I'm curious if it can hold my attention for however long it ends up being. But I still had a great time with this, and plenty of people were playing it like obsessively. It was definitely one of the more addicting titles at the show. It's actually already out on Steam in early access, so check it out if you're interested. Enter the Chronosphere is a turn-based roguelite. Hold on, okay, don't skip this one yet. I actually didn't realize this game was turn-based until I was about halfway through the line to play it because it does a really good job finding a middle ground between turn-based and real-time, and it can kind of fool you from a distance. You can actually almost play it like it's a real-time game if you're comfortable making the decisions quickly. It felt more like Super Hot than anything, where you could just slow yourself down to make thought-out decisions in the middle of a firefight, but you could also just play it as a straight-up action game. It's got this great, sleek, futuristic neon punk aesthetic, very hyper light. There's a lot of variety in the characters, and some of the upgrades I got in the demo let me seriously wreak havoc. I mean, let me tell ya, they were giving out these special tote bags to people who beat the demo at the show, and I was really eyeing those little bastards. I got all the way to the final boss with 2 heals in my pocket and just fumbled it. I think I was used to just playing it so fast that I forgot that I could literally stop and use a heal, so I died without using any, and I'm still upset about this. This was like my one chance to finally beat the games journalist difficulty allegations, and now I'm just another dude with the regular tote bag that they gave to losers. I honestly don't think I would have given this game a shot if I saw the trailer at home and read the description, but I'm really glad I gave it a go here because I really liked what I played. There is going to be a public demo, I believe in May, so keep an eye out for that. Donkey Game. Apparently some people think that Video Game Donkey is making this game. He's not, to be clear. Him and Lee are just publishing it. The developer is actually Shared Memory, and if you want to know what Shared Memory looks like, here you go. Now you might be wondering, hey, where's everybody else? That's just one guy. Well, get this, bucko. It is just that guy. He made the whole thing. What you're probably not thinking, but I'm gonna say it anyways, is I wonder what game engine he used to make this game, and the answer to that is none that you've ever heard of because he made his own game engine for this thing. And maybe now you're thinking, what coding language did he use? And guess what? He made his own no, he used C++. Can you imagine how insane you'd have to? Anyways, what that proprietary engine and solo development has allowed Billy to do is have full control over how this game comes out, down to these specialized ultra deep detailed lighting effects. This game really pops out of the screen and smacks you in the face with these sharp colors, and it also feels great to play just as a platformer. The controls and movement are so tight. I usually have a problem with the floatiness of a lot of jumps in modern platformers and Metroidvanias. I'm actually not a huge fan of Hollow Knight's jump, for example, but this felt perfectly tuned in its movement, which is good because there's no real action in this game. It's all about interacting with different elements of the ecosystem, seeing how a creature might react to your actions, solving puzzles, and finding secrets. The game is estimated to be somewhere around 10 hours in length, with a few more tacked on for technically 100%ing it, but Billy claims that some secrets may not be discovered for years, and multiple people at its booth gave the impression that it was capable of providing plenty of entertainment past the natural conclusion of the core game. It comes out May 9th, check it out, and as an aside, I'll also add that I somehow managed to finesse my way into talking to Billy for like a couple hours, I think, alongside the guy who did both this and this. And both of them were just super chill, insanely knowledgeable, really talented, and best of all, didn't make a big deal about the fact that I had no business being a part of their conversation, so shout out to them. Beat Slayer is a Hades-inspired rhythm game. It's a roguelike with multiple weapon types, and like a lot of other rhythm games, it's built off the idea of timing attacks to the beat in order to kill enemies. That said, the creators of the game are really adamant about the fact that unlike other rhythm games, their game really forces you to stay on beat, rather than just giving you a nice reward or stat boost for it. Enemies actually attack you on beat, and only if you evade them on time do you take no damage, so if you mess up the timing, you're all but guaranteed to get hit. It's not as forgiving as other games in the genre. I didn't actually get hands-on with this one. I did watch some other people play it though, and I was a fan of the overall aesthetic and the harsher punishment for mistiming things. This one's out in a few days. Riftstorm is a game with both a typical mission structure and roguelike modes where you can pick between a few different character types and just blast through dungeons, messing stuff up. This felt pretty quintessential top-down shooter. It was crisp, had nice animations, and felt nice to play. I don't know if it necessarily has that wow factor, that thing that really hooks me and separates it from other games in the genre, but it was just really well put together, which deserves some love at the very least. And the last game I wanted to highlight before I got into some of the games that I was a little bit more mixed on is Noir Manor. This is a visual novel that's being developed by a longtime comic artist who has no experience in games before this. Despite that, he learned how to use Unity and is doing everything, including 100% of the art, by himself, with the game set to have anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of content, and coming out later this year despite him only working on it for the last 2 years. Honestly, I don't even know how those words even make sense in a sentence. The art is so dense, detailed, and off-putting with its disproportionate corpse-like characters and gothic charm. You'd really think that this was a lot longer in the making, and from a larger art team at the very least. I'm just really into the presentation of this game. It's so up my alley, and the overall story of a doll with no soul who gains consciousness and makes it their mission to escape this cursed manor feels so prototypically dark mystery. It's like a plot that feels similar to many other works in and out of games, but it still has the ability to stand on its own among those inspirations. It's heavily influenced by theater, particularly Greek tragedies, and the creator Monoramus is so deeply passionate about what he's doing that you just kind of believe it's gonna be something special. I mean, he's from Brazil. Those people just know how to make anything sound sexy. Also, shout out to his wife Marie, who's the sweetest person I've ever met, the ultimate hype woman, and the two of them were just great to interact with. There are a few games though that I have my reservations about. I generally was a little bit picky with what I played and spent most of my time just kind of hanging out, vibing, meeting some people, but there were a couple things that I tried that definitely left me feeling a little unsure. Of those, the two that I still generally enjoyed were Iron Meat and My Horde. The former is a run and gun that doesn't feature the same level of difficulty as games it's raised on, and also didn't have much going on outside of some funky characters and weapons, but it's still kind of hard to mess up simple side-scrolling shoot-'em-up action, so I still had a good time with it, as basic as it was. And the latter was this vampire survival-like game about necromancy. The whole loop was just going around fighting enemies with your initially small army, and then when enemies died, you could resurrect them, which makes your army bigger, but if an army member of yours dies, then they're gone for good. There are only two controls, move and necromance, and it played a lot more like those Agario-type games than Vampire Survivors to me. There was this sort of simple, passive enjoyment here, which is what it's meant for, obviously. Your real challenge is just positioning properly and seeing what you should engage with, but I think the real thing that needs work here is the balancing. At least from what I played, it was dead easy baby's first video game for the first 10 minutes, and then I died like 30 seconds later. I'm not sure if that's the balancing they're going for, but something a little more evened out would be nice. Either way, people go crazy for these casual games, they always have, so this one might attract some attention as well. And then the two games that I generally didn't like were Prison City and Sandland. I did see a trailer for Prison City like a few weeks or months back, I don't know, and I thought it looked a little bit boring and generic, like a mediocre rip of Castlevania in the modern era, or maybe even a worse version of what Gravity Circuit had done last year. And yeah, that's basically how it played. I kind of just spammed the attack button in all directions and moved through uninspired levels for about 15 minutes and then moved on to better things. Maybe there's something shining under the surface here, but it just didn't leave the best impression. It was very forgettable. And Sandland is a good showcase of how the shortcuts that animes take to cut down on costs really aren't as easy to cover up in a full-ass video game. You may remember that this is a game with ties to Akira Toriyama, the legendary Dragon Ball Z creator who passed away recently, and it's an adaptation of a manga by the same name. I will say, the game looked good from a distance. I mean, first of all, you played the demo inside this big stylized tank thing that they built, which was pretty sweet, but the demo itself had a level of spectacle involved, and I could see boss fights and tank battles, and it all looked great. But when you got up close, it all played not great. Tons of moments in this demo had straight up no audio. They were missing voice lines, missing sound effects, everything, and the quality of what was on screen would sharpen and decline seemingly at random. The combat was flat, generic, spammy, and repetitive to the point that you could just input the same 4-button sequence and kick anything's ass without breaking a sweat, and I discovered this roughly 2 minutes into playing it. It's a shame too, because the game looks nice and it's got some fun ideas with the focus on driving and the weird mix of creatures and vehicles in here, but the demo just felt like a project that got abandoned halfway through, and then years later somebody accidentally sat on the deploy tank button and one just appeared at PAX without the team even knowing. I know that there's a longer and different demo on the PSN store, so if you want to check it out, the game comes out April 25th, maybe you're interested, but even if this game looks like it's up your alley, I would be very cautious about getting excited because you can just tell it cuts so many corners. Even with those tougher to swallow demos though, I had a really great time at PAX. I got to meet a ton of people who were really excited to talk about their work. I had a couple moments where I just discovered something I wasn't expecting, like I stumbled onto a booth for Berserk Studios, who don't even have a new game coming out, but they were just showing off the Infernax 2-player update and had people line up to play Just Shapes and Beats. It was great talking to them because they're a very underappreciated indie team in my opinion, and I even ran into a little station that was showing off a follow-up to Genesis Noir. Apparently I was the only one at the show who had played Genesis Noir before. They were shocked that I knew about it, which made me feel like kind of a nerd, but we all knew that already. But hey, I mean, I love Genesis Noir's aesthetic. I had some trouble getting into the gameplay, but I think they have it going on from an artistic perspective, so I am excited to see what they do with a sequel that's apparently now on Kickstarter. Point is, it was a great time, the panels were fun, I'm excited to hopefully go to more of these kind of shows in the future, and if I do, I'll be sure to let you know what I played. For now though, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, join the Discord, it's in the description, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.